So as I look around this room, I see a lot of the people who shaped Arkansas tennis from when I was young, and that was a long time ago, and even now. So you saw earlier there were a lot of Hall of Famers that are here tonight. Tonight we're inducting 2 more members into that Hall of Fame. Buddy Bowman. And Mel Collazo. Buddy was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2022, but of course that was during the height of the pandemic, and we did not have a banquet that year, so we are honoring Buddy tonight. Introducing Buddy tonight is John Bailey. John.
Well, tonight, I'm going to have a 2-part introduction, as Buddy had asked if I wouldn't give maybe an introduction of our youth years, as well as how much fun that we had when we were growing up and going to tennis tournaments. So it's a real honor for me to be standing here, and Buddy, thank you for having me. Buddy and I met at Walker Tennis Center, which was the old Walker Tennis Center near Memorial football stadium, but it was when we were 9 years old and playing in the Little Rock City closed tennis tournament. And at that point in time, it was just, we had met and we started playing tennis together, practicing. And from 11 years old until we were 18 years old, we were practicing doubles partners all the way through the juniors. It was amazing. And it was, during a time, really during the late 1960s and the early 1970s, back in the day when you had the wooden rackets and the wooden press that you would have on the top of that racket to keep it from warping. But it was also a time when you had the Jack Kramer racket that we had, the Dunlop Max Supply, and the Tad Davis that was many of our favorites. So today it's a completely different game. Anyway, it was our parents that really bring back the memories of what they did for Buddy and me. They would always take us, and they traded off actually, between taking us to the different Southern tournaments around that we went, as well as to all the Southern closed tennis tournaments. And, I can tell you a couple of stories, but I will say that we shared some of the most incredible experiences, not just life experiences, but tennis experiences. One that I remember most was Buddy's dad. He drove a classic 69 Bonneville. And in that car, at that time, you drove on 2-lane highways, and we would just fly down these roads, going about 85, 90 miles an hour. And I remember just thinking, and Buddy and I were both just, this is so cool. There were no seat belts. This is just, you're flying down these roads, having a great time. But on the other hand, when my mother would take us on these trips, we would always stop at all the fruit stands. Back in the day, they had a bunch of fruit stands all the time. Fruit stands, she loved the fruit and the vegetables and whatever else, but mixed nuts. And we'd always stop, and it was a completely different trip. It took us hours longer. So when we were about 13 years old, my mother, she drove Buddy and me to Jackson, Mississippi. She had a purple station wagon, and it was one of those kind of station wagons that it had like the rumble seat in the back, and then the bench seat was the next one, and then the driver's seat in front. But in between the rumble seat and the bench seat was a large compartment. And of course, we stopped along the way at one of these vegetable stands, and she gets her normal deal of apricots, and watermelon and what have you. She puts the watermelon into the hidden compartment between the seats. Okay, well, that was part of the MO at the time. But here we go, we play in the tennis tournament, we all forget about the watermelon. So of course, with the temperatures being about 100 degrees, right before we left to come back home, the watermelon burst. And so it had one of the most wretched, rotten smells you could ever imagine in the car. All we could get out was the Rhine, and we had to roll the windows down, and we all drove home in the most sickening experience you could ever, buddy. I mean, it was awful. But I also remember a day that Buddy's dad, he was one of these, parents that was very intense, and he loved watching Buddy and us play doubles. But he had a three-legged stool that he would bring. It was kind of one of these army stools, if you could think about it, but it was one you could just fold up with your hands and carry with you. And he was really one of the first ones that had ever really coached us on strategy on both singles and doubles. And really what you could see from what Buddy's career, that he was the one that really benefited from his dad's coaching on singles, but I certainly had a lot of benefit in playing with Buddy in many of our matches from his dad's coaching on strategy as well. He was a wonderful man. So were both of your parents, Buddy. I was talking to Doug tonight just about how wonderful it was when going to your house in our early years and playing tennis. It was fabulous. One last story I'm going to tell you here. But another time, my mother drove us to the Southern Closed Tennis Tournament in Nashville, Tennessee. We were about 13 years old, and we had a rain delay. And of course, we go back to the hotel, and there's about 10 boys. And somehow, back in that day, boys being boys, I guess, you looking for something to do. And what do? We go on the second and third and fourth floors, and we find all of the fire extinguishers. Well, they didn't have the locks on the fire extinguishers, so we took them out. And then someone just had a little squirt, and the next guy did a bigger squirt. All of a sudden, we were in a full-blown fire extinguisher fight with 5 against 5, and we were running between the second and fourth floors. Well, the manager came and started chasing us down. And if you've ever been a part of seen the movie The Ferris Bueller's Day Off, have you seen that? If you have, this is exactly what happened. They were chasing us. Buddy and I ran, and we made it back to my mother's and our room. And for whatever reason, we disappeared in the room, and all of a sudden there was a knock on the door. So I know he saw us run in there, but there was a knock on the door. And my mother, who was quietly had been reading, gets up and answers the door. And she has a conversation. The door closes and comes back, and we're sheepishly looking at her, and she just looked at us. She knew that we knew that she knew. And we were so relieved. But it was such a great time. That was one of the most memorable experiences I ever had. But Buddy was the ringleader of that whole thing. He knew it. He knew it. We got going. That was so much fun. So Buddy proceeded to win all of the Arkansas State boys divisional titles, from 12 and under all the way through the 18 and under. I was kind of his whipping dog along the way. And Buddy was a natural athlete, though. He was truly a natural athlete with a tough mental capability, with resolve, and his ability to just, Buddy, or just athleticism. It was just phenomenal. And many of our tennis community back in the day will attest to just how wonderful and beautiful your volleys were. You're arguably the best volleys in the state, in the South. But Buddy went on to not only being the #1 player in the state of Arkansas, but he was in the top 4 in the South and the top 16 in the country before being recruited by Tom Pucci, and it was really Cook, who was right before Pucci came in. But he was recruited, he went to the University of Arkansas, and he became an Arkansas Razorback. And yeah, with me, but that was 1 year later. But Buddy started playing #1 singles his very first year as a freshman. And then he played throughout his whole career. He was either #1 or #2 singles. He played doubles throughout his career. But one of the most notable items, too, about Buddy in regard to this career is that it's very, very tough to get invited to the prestigious NCAA tournament, invitational tournament they have at the end of the season. Buddy was invited 3 out of 4 years. What an incredible feat that is. So that's fabulous, Buddy. So I want to just also make a note that there were many memorable trips, whether it was in the juniors or in college that we took. But one characteristic that you can always know about tennis, and I think we all, as in this tennis community, we all love tennis, we all have great friends, but that's certainly what we all know, that it has enriched our lives with whoever we are, with our mentors, our coaches, friends, or friends that we meet later. But in this case, I want to just ask that all the friends and the lifelong friends that we've had, Buddy, if you'd raise your hand from the youth that were here that knew Buddy. Absolutely. Thank you. I know we all are just very, very happy for you, Buddy, and I am extremely honored that you asked me to talk about the youth years and the fun. But congratulations on your 2022 Arkansas Tennis Hall of Fame Award. You well deserve that. And before I ask my brother to come up, I also just want to say to my other friend, Mel Colazzo, and his family. Mel stepped out for a moment, but I just want to say congratulations to Mel for his 2023 Arkansas Hall of Fame recognition. So my brother Ted, you want to come up?
This short speech is simply titled, The Great Buddy Bowman. Buddy told me he'd buy my lunch. He told me he'd buy my lunch if I opened with that. Just kidding. When Buddy called me in November of 2021 to ask me if I would say a few words at his Arkansas Tennis Hall of Fame induction, I said, of course. Buddy, in all sincerity, it is truly an honor that you asked me to say a few words. I just hope after the next 5 to 7 minutes, you'll still be glad you asked me to say a few words. Part 1, take it to the limit. Step back with me, if you will, about 47 years. Some of you may remember the hit song by the Beatles, Take It to the Limit, by the Eagles in 1975. After being heavily recruited by many schools, Buddy chose to become a Razorback in 1975. I was an upperclassman by then, a lot older than Buddy and Johnny, but had the good fortune of playing number 2 doubles with Buddy in Coach Tom Pucci's earliest years. Buddy and I had our share of long, well-contested 3-set matches in 1975. That year, Take It to the Limit by the Eagles was released. Naturally, because of our share of 3-set matches, Buddy and I decided that was our slogan, that our slogan was going to be, take it to the limit, but just make sure you win. Therefore, Take It to the Limit will live on in our collective memories. Buddy, you may recall 2 of our more memorable in-state doubles wins was the Pleasant Valley Open and then Hardscrabble in 1975. That was a good one. Enjoyed that. Part 2, memorable moments on the court with Buddy. So, we were playing Missouri in a dual match at home in Ichabod at the new Ichabod Tennis Center up in Springdale. And Buddy and I were playing real well. We're winning the match. I'm feeling kind of cocky, and it's my serve. So I decide that, I'm going to go for an ace to the back, to the ad court. I'm gonna go for an ace. I'll step up to the line, serve, fault. Second, step up to the line, second serve, bam, ace. Right down the middle, about 2 inches from that tee, ace, right past that Missouri Tiger. And I'll never forget it. I hit that ace, and Buddy turns to me, only like Buddy can, and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Buddy, we won the point. Who cares?" I think Buddy thought I was taking kind of a little bit of an unnecessary risk. Well, can you tell me good serve now? Say good serve, Ted. Do you remember that? You don't remember that? Okay. It made an impression on my mind. Okay, this is another one at Ichabod Tennis Center. We're playing Texas Tech in a Southwest Conference matchup back in the days when Arkansas was still in the SWC. We're back again at Ichabod. So, Buddy serving, and the Red Raiders, one of the players said, "God, I mean, this guy's clearly foot faulty." Buddy was, in the court about a foot or so. And so long story short, we had to get one of our fans up in the lounge area. Joe Harriman came down and took his seat there on those little metal chairs on the baseline. And Buddy steps up to the line to serve. Foot fault. You remember that? And Buddy walked slowly back, just like this, real slowly back to the baseline for the second serve. Served the game out, and when we were changing sides, Buddy goes, "Can you believe he called a foot fault on me?" You couldn't believe one of our fans called a foot fault on you. Sorry. Okay, and this is probably my favorite one. So we're playing Texas Tech. No, let's see, I need to go for the Baylor. So we're playing Texas Tech, Baylor in Waco, and we're in a tiebreaker. And it's Baylor's serve, and I'm going to be taking the serve in the deuce court. And Buddy looked at me, and we were in this tiebreaker, and he said, "Come over here, I'm going to talk to you about something." He said, "Now, when this guy serves, I'm going to drop my racket and then pick it back up real quickly to distract him." So the guy serves, and sure enough, there's a fault. Buddy drops his racket. Buddy drops his racket, picks it back up. The guy faults, and all hell broke loose. I think we replayed that. Remember that? Remember that? It made a real impression on me. All these, you dropped, yeah, I was receiving, and you just dropped your racket, and you picked it back up. As if that was going to work, as if that would work. But we played the point over. Part 3, who is Buddy Bowman? Buddy Bowman is a successful, good man. I consider, and I think few, if any, would disagree, Buddy Bowman is one of the best and most talented players to ever play for the University of Arkansas, period. Buddy had an excellent work ethic. He practiced hard and long, was a fierce competitor. I recall him staying after practice many days or arriving early, working on his serve and other areas to perfect his game. Buddy was a perfectionist and really didn't have any weaknesses in his game. His game was solid as a rock. Buddy was, of course, a good doubles player. However, he was at his best in singles. He played good, precise, clean tennis, and was a hardworking blue-collar hog that won many, many matches for the Razorbacks. Therefore, tonight, Buddy Bowman's induction into the Arkansas Tennis Hall of Fame is well-deserved indeed. Congratulations, Buddy. Buddy, with all sincerity, it really is an honor that you asked me to say a few words on your induction into the Arkansas Tennis Hall of Fame this evening. And as I said, it is so very well-deserved. And of course, thank you for the great Razorback memories. Go Hogs.
Thanks, everybody. It's such an honor to be here tonight. Hard to put into words. I practice and get choked up, and I know so many people that I grew up playing and watching my brother. I'm his little brother, Buddy. One of my favorite things, and I'm a tennis player too, is when I was little, like 6, 7 years old, I'd carry my brother's rackets from the car to play Johnny or with Johnny or Teddy. And I would sit in the back, and my mom or my dad would drive. I'd take the rackets and carry them up to the courts for him. So, Buddy, metaphorically, I'm trying to carry your rackets for you tonight, and so proud of you. A few things I was going to say, and Johnny and Teddy were so articulate, and I'll try to approach things in a little bit different way, but Johnny and Teddy, my mom and my dad, loved your family so much. Your mom and your dad just can't put into words. So I'll approach it a little bit differently in terms of my brother from a community standpoint. It's a little known fact, when my brother started, my dad, there was no connection to tennis in my family whatsoever growing up. My brother actually started playing on the back wall at Brady Elementary School. You know, no formal tennis. The way my dad was, you earned everything. So he'd say, son, if you want lessons, you go out and play, log it, and we'll think about getting you a tennis lesson and a new racket. That's how he was. But I wanted to say, it's no accident, even though the tennis was an accident to the family, it's no accident for my brother. Because really at that time, it's really a shout out, Johnny and Teddy tonight, but when I was visiting with my brother, there were 7 or 8 tennis players at the time within a year or two that played Division I tennis in Arkansas. Legitimate, good Division I tennis. Several are here tonight. Raymond Pascal was, again, one of the greatest players in my mind. Grew up watching Raymond, I told you that. And, you know, just unbelievable. Johnny Johnson, the other lefty from Pine Bluff. You know, Johnny and Teddy as well. So it was no accident. The level of competition really helped Buddy get better. And so when he played the big boys from California and Texas, and our family always felt we were the underdogs, mom would say, go get them, Buddy. And those bigger states, go get them. I mentioned the families, the Thomases, the Baileys. I'm sorry, I practiced and I thought I'd get through it, but it just gets a little emotional and a little overwhelmed. But so the families, it instilled character with my brother. Was, so proud of that. The teachers, Larry Walton's here tonight, Daryl Snively's in the back. Johnny mentioned volleying. I didn't realize it, but Sonny McRae Houston was one of the first inductees. I was out with my brother when I was little, and Sonny McRae Houston was actually the one, she played the Whiteman Cup, was just a graceful woman, taught Buddy how to volley. That's how he learned to volley, was Sonny McRae Houston. Taught him to volley. And of course, the other part of the community, the Razorback team that Johnny mentioned and Teddy mentioned. In my opinion, one of the best sports teams, and I'm a sports fan, one of the best Razorback sports teams of all time. They got to number 2 in the country. As the story goes, when they played UCLA, at UCLA, I think it was Ron Hattauer, Greg Vest may know, hopefully I'm accurate here, and darn near beat UCLA on UCLA's home court. And UCLA won. I was actually in Athens, Georgia, and saw UCLA win. But some of the Razorback players that were here, Greg and Ben Dodge, Johnny Bailey, Teddy, Joe Hickey, Randy Jackson, some of those Arkansas players that Arkansas went toe-to-toe with a lot of the California and the Texas teams. And I know Buddy's proud to be a Razorback. So I wanted to close. Johnny mentioned my dad. And I think I told my brother my dad's favorite story, and it involves me. It involves me. So when my brother was 16, my brother was right-handed, and he broke his right arm. So we still don't know quite the story how. I think he was jumping the tennis net maybe, and he came down on that arm. So in the wisdom, at the time, Buddy was 16, of course, would have been a sophomore at Little Rock Parkview High School. So even though Buddy, as Johnny mentioned, was highly ranked in the country, in the South, the quote tennis coach at Little Rock Parkview said, "Oh no sophomore is just going to walk on this tennis team and be number 1." So my brother and my dad cooked up a plan where Buddy would go out with his 9-year-old little brother for 10 days. His 9-year-old brother was me. And went out and played for 10 days. We went out every afternoon. And Buddy went out 10 days later, played left-handed, and played number 1 for Little Rock Parkview. And that was my dad's favorite story, that his boy played a right-handed player, played left-handed, and played number 1 for Little Rock Parkview. But I wanted to say, Buddy, just so proud of you. Sorry, I got a little choked up. I tried to practice and not do that, but I'm so proud of you. Mom and Dad were here. Be so proud. From the back of Brady Elementary School to the Arkansas Tennis Hall of Fame. What an honor. Thank you.
Quite an honor to be here tonight and standing in front of you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Obviously, I don't have to, when I talk about tennis, I don't need notes. However, I didn't want to miss anything, miss anybody, so forgive me if I do a little bit of following on my notes here. First, I want to congratulate Mel on being inducted. There's nobody I'd rather. Okay, there we go. I couldn't tell. There's nobody I'd rather come into the hall with than Mel. Fantastic guy, fantastic player. So what I wanted to start with, I think everybody in this room would agree with me, what a privilege it was to play tennis. What a privilege. What a great sport. So many things happen on a tennis court, mental, physical, friendships, all kinds of things. So it's a little hard to talk about because it has been a greater part of my life, but it's been so good. I just want to start with what a privilege it was. So the other thing that I laugh at, John, and I hadn't had this conversation before, but I believe I was a bad athlete. I was slow, and now I'm really slow, but these guys were kind. And what I wanted to say was, to play with good athletes was fascinating. For me to observe players that could do these weird shots, better shots, was fun. It was a real challenge, and that's the essence of what I wanted to tell you tonight, is I did not see myself as a good athlete. I was always carefully watching my opponent. So just a couple of examples that I had to give of the good athletes that are sitting here tonight in this room. Number one, who in the world can, and excuse me for walking back and forth, but I do better when I walk back and forth instead I stand just like this, but I know it's not. Anyway, number one, who in the world can toss a ball 20 feet in the air perfectly for 50 years? Mel Collazo. I mean, Mel, you twist your body. It is the most remarkable thing I've ever seen in my life. Number two, and not necessarily in that order, John Bailey could hit a backhand shot from anywhere on the court, mostly down the line, John, but unbelievable backhand, unbelievable. It was a lot of fun to see you do that, unless it was me. But really a beautiful stroke, and I'll never forget it. Players like Greg Fess, who didn't just go to the net, he became the net after about a tenth of a second. A tenth of a second. There he is. How did he do that? I still don't know. People like Ben Dodge, who will fight you for every point on the court, whether you're practicing, whether you're in a tournament. This guy's a fiery competitor like I've never seen. And lastly, but not least, Herbert Thomas, who can drop shot and lob like Herbert. I still remember the old Walker tennis day. You love that lob, Herbert. I could go on and on, but I know our time is short. But I want you to know that's how I thought about it. It was fascinating to play with people like that. So my enjoyment for the game truly was the effort that it took to get there. It was fun to put out the effort. And even if you lost, you learned a lesson from it. And also, of course, the relationships formed. In junior tennis, when players fall within a year or two of you, you get to know them real well. Chattanooga, Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, Jackson. We knew all those players, and it was a lot of fun traveling. And I'm going to talk about it in a minute. But the point I was going to make is tennis is a world unto itself. It's a fascinating world. And the skills, and this is where I've benefited, and I think all of us have, the skills are so transferable into other things. What you learn on the tennis court, you can use in the business world. You can use, et cetera, et cetera. It's the skills transfer. I believe that. So that's why I do feel blessed to be here a long time, because I picked up some skills. You know, people like to talk about my volley, but I think it was the other things that I've learned. Friendships, hard work, and fun. Plain old fun. All right, last point on this was I did enjoy teaching, and the reason I did, because you're giving real value to people. You are. You're not just teaching them how to hit a tennis ball. You're saying, hey, if you'll put out a little effort here, you can learn a lot of things by playing tennis. That's very rewarding, very rewarding. All right, so my career breaks into three parts. John talked mainly about ages 8 to 18, juniors, U of A 75 to 80. And in the last part was 16 years as a head tennis pro. So this is the idea that I think is important for me. I love being an underdog. I love it. An underdog is passion. It's not, to me, it's not to be number one. It's simply the effort it takes to get to be number one. So I'll talk a little bit more of that in the future, but I want you all to understand that being an underdog so that's why, like when Little Rock went to Chattanooga, it was us against them. What can you do? Can you beat the boys from St. Louis, from wherever? What more can you ask for? That was fun. So, all right, let's see here. So that's the point about the out-of-town trips. When I went to University of Arkansas, the first 2 years were a lot of fun. Greg, I know you weren't on the team the first two, but it was fun to come together as a team, work hard, try to put us on the map. Then when the new players came in, we built on that. And the third and fourth years were exciting in a different way. But I did want to make special recognition. The Razorbacks who went before us, Joe Hickey, Randy Jackson, Ted Bailey, although I played a couple of years with Ted, he was up there with the Grizzacks and a lot of other. We stood on their shoulders. These guys competed well. They competed well. Herbert Thomas was there. So this is a little story I'll tell you. Like I said, I loved being an underdog. I would much rather be number 10 seed than the number 2 seed, for example, or whatever. So I guess it was Doug that mentioned this UCLA match. I also got it on my story. 1978, they were number 1 in the nation. We were number 2. Right, Greg? Believe it or not, okay, so this is the old 9-point tiebreaker where the 5th point wins the set, right? Y'all remember that? How could someone design a scenario on my court? It was 4 matches all, 4 points all, 3rd set. You think I hadn't played that point in my mind a few times? I took it on the ad court. And I didn't want to lose. I did not want to lose. Unfortunately, that was my final thought that day. Didn't go well. We lost that point. We finished number 2 at that time. However, it was a lesson that I carried with me, and I will come back at the very end of my talk, and I'll keep moving here. Everybody knows tennis is a mind game, and feeling like an underdog, that the person thinks they're better than you, or are better, but at least there's an aura, really made me love it. I have many close friends who are here tonight, several teammates at UA Fayetteville, and of course, Burns Park. At Burns, worked under Larry Walton. Several of us did. Thank you, Larry, for many good memories. I was an assistant under Daryl Snively. Quick little story with Daryl. I just graduated, and I wasn't sure exactly what direction I was going to go at that time. And I said, Daryl, you got a place for me on the. He was running Burns Park at the time. He said, what about tomorrow at 8 a.m.? So Daryl and I had some good times. He taught me a lot. I also worked out there. James Strassel was right by my side, right there. He's a hard worker, brilliant friend. Thank you, James. All right, some funny stories. I got a couple of funny stories. All right, so the first one is Walker Tennis Center, 1965. Y'all remember Sylvan Hart? Nice guy. How about that cigarette smoke? I mean, that cigar smoke. So what happened to me was my very first tournament, Walker Tennis Center, I entered the tournament. I didn't even know hardly what clothes to wear. I didn't know anything. But I entered the tournament, or my dad entered me, I guess. And so what happened was I got crushed. Charlie Colley, you remember Charlie, nice guy. However, after he tore me apart, he went to the side and he was telling all his buddies how bad he'd beat this new kid that came in to play this tournament. My dad happened to be listening to that conversation. He came over to me and said, buddy, this guy thinks you're pitiful, worse than pitiful. And I started thinking, you mean people actually think about, I had no idea about the mental aspect until that happened. So yes, that did motivate me. Thank you, Charlie Colley. Another story here. So this one, I like this one. So we went to North Carolina, boys 12, with Miss Bailey and the crew. There were like 6 of us. So we get out there, and you know they have the draw sheet posted. It has all the names, who plays who, you know. So I'm going down the line. I find my name, Arkansas. Right next to my name, D. Kiesler, North Carolina. And I had my finger up there like that. This little kid next to me says, "Oh no, you have to play D?" And I said, "I don't know him." He said, "D. Kiesler never misses a shot. Never misses a shot. You're in trouble." It scared me to death. I went home that night, I couldn't sleep. But this is what I came up with, and it gives you a clue to the way I was thinking. I was thinking, so if he truly never missed, he's going to hit the ball more to the center of the court. That's how he never misses, right? So I said, if I can at least hit the ball 12, whatever, a foot or two to either side of the middle of the court, then the longer the match went on, he would get tired quicker than me. Does that make sense? That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And it's the power of a positive attitude, because I was probably dead tired, but I didn't feel like it, because in my mind, he was actually running more than I was. So I did beat D. I don't know whatever happened to him, and most of my tennis friends never heard of him, but it was a very interesting chess match for me. All right, just one other story here. So at boys 14, my dad wanted to take a trip to Springfield, Ohio, a family, quote unquote, family trip. He entered me in the Western Open. So what was interesting about this trip is my dad's family, who lived in Ohio, they couldn't even hardly spell tennis. I mean, it was like they didn't know anything about it. They didn't know to be quiet, don't clap during the point when the other guy double faults or something like that. They didn't know any of that stuff. So what happened was, the first thing that happened was I drew in the first round a kid from that area who the local paper had made a big sports story about, Billy Nichols, Chicago. Billy's comments were, "This is a tune-up event. This is tune-up. I want to just test out the waters. I'm going to go to Kalamazoo at the end of the summer, and then I'll have some real people to play against." He said that. My dad, of course, put the sports page right in front of my face. "Buddy, did you happen to read this?" Yes, I read that. And yes, it worked. But the real funny part was, as I was playing, it got better and better and better. And these people on the sidelines were just going crazy. And it was like a circus but it was fun. It was a very good memory. So it was a family vacation in my tennis tournament, you know? So, all right. Last story, went with Larry Walton and Miss Bailey. She went down there to Birmingham, National City Junior Team Champion. Have you ever heard of that before? National City. They don't do it anymore, to my knowledge. But they did in 1970, Larry? 69? Right in there. But we had a heck of a team. George Duncan, Herbert, Chris Mullen, Jay Everett, of course, John Bailey, me, who else was there, John? Huh? Pascal, absolutely. But anyway, in my mind, I always thought of everybody as a team. I thought of these guys as teams, but we played against each other a lot, but I still felt like it was a team. And to be part of that National City event was fabulous. I mean, we beat St. Louis, we beat Burlingame, California. I think we lost in the finals to some city in California. Who was it? I don't know. We lost. But it was unbelievable. And that's what I'm saying with tennis. So any of the young people here, the team, learn the team. It's not just beating your teammate. It's being part of that team. There's nothing better than that. It is. Let me see here. So couple of trips we went on that were fun. Pine Bluff, Southeast Arkansas Championships. We stayed at the Duncan's house. Yes, we ate pretty good. And we had a blast. It was a 50-50 Picture a tennis tournament where I don't know how many people stayed at their house, but it was, and then we had a ping pong tournament at Eden Park the rest of the time. So if they say, did you play the tournament? I'm not really sure, but did we have a blast? Absolutely. So that was, thank you, Leslie McIntyre. All right, so we went to Memphis many times, and I've got to call out a few of these guys' names so it'll ring bells with some of the players. We knew them like best buddies, and it gave us a chance to figure out how to beat them. So that was what was so fun about it. Players like Sam Blair, Gary Albertine, Tiger Buford, Larry Richmond, Dick Milford, and Keith West. That was a Memphis group, 1968, 1972, maybe, whatever. We also went trips to Chattanooga, Mobile, Jackson. Being Arkansas against them was just fantastic. Last few trips, we went to Fayetteville, Hot Springs, Fort Smith. One thing that would happen that was funny, I wanted to add, on some of these trips, they would kid us about, where did you say you're from? Arkansas. Where the heck is Arkansas? I felt like saying, where the heck is California? You know, but it was us against them. And it was, you just couldn't write a better script. My encouragement to parents now is not to focus on just the winning and losing. That will come. That will come if you enjoy it, if you have patience. I can't stress that enough. I think people get a little too caught up, even though I know that's where the payoff can be. Consider the fun, the camaraderie, the lessons learned. That will never be forgotten. What makes all this worthwhile is the people around us. It's not the destination. It is truly the journey. For my doubles partners, Ted, John, Ben, Mel, people I played doubles with, I don't even remember half the time who won and who lost. I know a couple of them because Ted won't let me forget. There's a few of them, and I wish we'd won them too, Ted. But I still had fun. So in summary, start to pull this together for you. My experiences within my own home could be very challenging. It was very I was very fortunate to get to travel, but very challenging circumstance. However, to get to have tennis goals, a larger tennis family, tennis friends, made life good instead of seem negative. So it was truly a tennis family for us. And my mom and dad did support that. I grew to appreciate the process of things. The practice time preparing for success is more valuable than the event itself. Learning to love practice was key for me. And yes, I confess I was a practice nerd. The reason was that it paid off in one way or another. So practice, how could practice be fun? I don't know, but it was. All right, lastly, I will touch on my wins. This is what players most like to tap into. Yes, I had a few deer antlers, deer heads to put on your memory wall of places you like to, of people you like to think about. I will not bore you with those names, but will share my best victory. It was professing my faith in Jesus Christ at age 40. Yeah. I believe the 1 point short situation at UCLA I mentioned earlier, 1 point short. I believe I was being shown that there's something greater than tennis. There is something. Tennis was my world. I learned there was something greater than tennis. And hopefully we all know that tonight as I do. I thank each of you for being a part of my life. I sincerely do. Tennis has allowed me to transfer skills and ideas from tennis to help in the field of counseling now, which is what I do. I relate those lessons learned and people connected with to those less fortunate who struggle every day. So you remember, I mentioned earlier about being an underdog. I'm an underdog again in the field of counseling, and I love it. Thank you very much.